Well, our breaking news coverage of the U.S. election win for Donald Trump continues now. We are joined by Monique Smith, Senior Counsel at Global Public Affairs. Monique, a pleasure to speak to you this morning. How do you expect this Trump victory to impact U.S.-Canada relations? We've seen it once before, but there's a lot of speculation it'll be very different this time out.
We have seen it once before, and I was in Washington in 2016 when he won his first election. The transition was a bit chaotic. Someone suggested today that at a session I was at that was perhaps because he was surprised to have won. This time he's not surprised to have won, but his plans for transition are quite dramatic. So it could be a pretty bumpy ride for the next few months.
When you say bumpy ride, do you mean for his transition, or do you mean for the impacts here on Canada and sort of the relationship between Canada and the U.S.?
I think for his transition, he's got big plans to make some big changes, and I think that that will be hard for all governments around the world to kind of figure out what the way into this new administration will be. And then over the longer term, I think there are some particularly difficult provisions that he's looking at doing, including tariffs, that I think Canada is going to have to really try to maneuver so that we're not hard hit.
So, Monique, what kind of advice would you offer if anybody approached you about this? I mean, we generally know Trump's reputation is that of a very transactional person, kind of a what have you done for me lately? What can you do for me now? Would you advise people in terms of, going ahead with this and trying to ensure that things, are smooth, I suppose?
I think we have to build on relationships. Certainly, there are many people in the Canadian Foreign Service that have relationships with various people who've been close to Trump over the years. We did have 4 years of his administration, so we've got to start to rebuild those relationships. And as well, during the last administration, when the USMCA, the trade agreement, came up for renegotiation, we spent a lot of time talking to the states and talking to allies of the Trump administration at a state to provincial government level, and also the federal government in various states, and that proved very effective. So I think we'll be looking at kind of reigniting a lot of those relationships and just ensuring that the Trump administration understands how important Canada is to the U.S., what a strong partnership and what a great ally we've been over the years.
Okay. Now, Monique, I know you were there when Kathleen Wynne was in power, sort of under the Liberal government. But Doug Ford, the last time out when Trump, was sort of talking about, tariffs and potential threats here to the Ontario economy, which, of course, is a huge trading partner to the U.S., he was very much lining up senators and governors in those sort of Rust Belt states and border states, where all the trade is happening here. Do you think something like that could work again, that kind of a strategy to try to encourage President Trump to see the value of the trading relationship?
Yes, I do. I think during the previous negotiations on trade, I was working with Premier Wynne, and we developed a lot of relationships with governors across the U.S., including the Rust Belt, but all across the U.S. I mean, there were governors that were shocked to hear the extent of their trade relationship with Ontario. And so I think it's important to remind them how important Ontario and Canada are to their particular states for trade, and how these negotiations have implications more broadly, and at a state level what the implications are if Canada, if things shift too dramatically for Canadians. Okay,
it is going to be fascinating to watch this. Monique Smith, Senior Counsel, Global Public Affairs. Do appreciate your time and insight this morning. Thank you.
Happy to be with you. Thanks, Nick. Take care.